In today's video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Hurricane Milton. I know this storm is about to impact folks in Florida. Very devastating hurricane. We're going to be talking about those impacts. Track is a little bit less of a question at this point. We will be discussing a little bit of that, of course. In today's video, we're going to segue in the beginning portion, actually, into the upcoming pattern as we look beyond Milton and what's happening for the overall nation. So if you want to skip to where we start talking about Milton, I will have kind of like a timestamp in the video to where you can find that if that is the only thing you're really concerned about this video with. So be sure to do that. Let's dive into things and take a look here first off at the upcoming pattern overall. And we do see, of course, Milton there very close to Florida. Again, going to be landfalling this evening. They're already feeling impacts from this storm. Some impacts that we're discussing, of course, is going to be the storm surge, the wind, but also the tornado threat is rather high in there. We even have a hatched area, I believe, in Florida. So some pretty significant tornado activity may be taking place across Florida due to this storm. Rainfall is actually on the upswing. We originally were discussing how rainfall did not appear to be that huge of a concern in comparison to the wind and the storm surge, but that has crept up slowly but surely throughout the last few days and now become also a major concern for some areas. So we're going to be discussing all of this. Let's go ahead and take a look at tomorrow afternoon, and we see that the storm Milton will be on the other side of Florida by this point, likely still a hurricane on the east side of Florida, bringing category 1 or 2 impacts to this east coast of Florida. So again, winds, storm surge, rain going to be impacting those folks as well. Awfully close to Georgia and South Carolina's coast as well. We could be seeing some impacts. I don't expect anything too drastic or major, but there could be impacts felt. You notice the overall pattern around the nation. We do have this kind of ridge across a lot of the Midwest, a miniature trough. It's felt very nice here in the east, and also same story for the Northwest with this kind of warm push through the middle of the nation, through the northern plains and upper Midwest there. We're going to see this all change as we have a major Arctic blast expected in the medium range here. This is Friday on October 11th, and we see Milton is gone. We're done with that. We see overall a flatter jet stream, very quiet around the nation by Friday. So we're just going to glance right past that into Saturday. And this is where things begin to get very, very interesting. For one thing, we do have a stronger low in eastern Canada, bringing some rainfall and even snowfall for some folks there in the far east of Canada. We do have a building ridge out west, which is kind of the building stone here for this trough that's going to be moving in. We do see this advancing eastward and southward here over time, and a lot of times in between the boundaries of warm and cold, we do get some unsettled weather, and we do see those showers and even thunderstorms popping up throughout the northern plains, southern plains of Canada, also the Midwest and Ohio Valley, as well as the Great Lakes. So we are seeing that kind of unsettled look overall. Sunday, everything is building up to a climax here, and we're about to see this just unleash into the eastern states. We see really strong ridging across the west. We call this a positive P&A, and this oftentimes results in exactly what we're going to be seeing here, a digging trough into the east. And this is going to be one of, if not the biggest cool down we see this cold season so far. So in the fall, this is going to be the coldest air for many folks that we've seen thus far. And as we move closer to late October into November, these are obviously going to get a lot more major. They're going to be very frigid in nature, especially as we head later on into that pattern. And it's going to be, for some folks, kind of like their early winter time, obviously. We see that unsettled look is actually expanding and looking even more unsettled by this time at Sunday on October 13th. We see a very weak low developing over the northeast. And this could move up towards New England, perhaps, and become a little bit more of a major system. We'll talk about that in a minute. We do see that by time we're reaching Monday on the 14th, we see exactly that happening. The low isn't necessarily stronger, but we see a more organized look. Rainfall, even snowfall mixing in for some spots. This warmth is really surging over the west still, so that positive P&A is holding strong here across the west. And we see this really inverted, interesting looking trough here taking place. And this is spreading cold air throughout the Midwest, Northern Plains, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, Northeast, New England, all of these areas experiencing deep cold from this, and we see it dig even deeper for Tuesday here. So this is Tuesday afternoon on October 15th. This warm air mass is becoming a little inverted as well, as it's kind of moving more towards the northeast. It has that kind of positive tilt, if you will. We see this trough is more of a negative tilt. Very, very interesting. In the jet stream, we can't get all the way to the top of it, but it's something like this. So very, very unsettled weather as this jet stream is moving very quickly on the southern end. So we're seeing storminess kind of race across that southern end of the trough. We have overall low pressure around for the inside of this trough, and even a major low here in eastern Canada, bringing another snow event, this time maybe major for some folks here far to the north in eastern Canada. I know there's not a lot of people up there, and the likelihood is nobody from up there is even watching this video, but if you are, snowfall could be on the way as this trough moves down. We will look at the temperatures in a minute, by the way, but let's move towards Wednesday. We see this trough is dying down. It is still centered over the east, where we still have some kind of really cold temperatures along the east compared to what's typical. This ridge is slightly moving eastward, so we could see a flip on the way for some point during kind of like the mid to late October timeframe, and we do get some troughing here and ridging in the east. So this is the overall look that we're getting from this model as we approach the 20th. Obviously, this is far out and things can change, but that is the look that we get after that trough is said and done. Also, again, along this cold and warm boundary, more unsettled weather on the way. The East Coast dealing with some kind of stormy activity moving upwards, so the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast could have more activity on the horizon. And the Pacific Northwest, a low arriving for you guys, so more stormy weather out there as well could be possible. As we dive into these, well, first off, the total precipitation, still a little underwhelming. Unless you're in like this corridor here, this area looks pretty decent as far as precipitation. Also, the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley and Northeast. And then for a little bit of the Pacific Northwest here, we're not going to look at the anomalies today, but higher amounts in those yellows and reds, and lower for sure in the whites, grays, and greens, and even some of the blues there. A little low to maybe around normal as far as precipitation is concerned. As far as the temperatures go, this is what we're looking at. Some cooler weather is around currently. Warmer air is on the way for a moment, it almost seems like. But here's, as we reach Sunday afternoon, we clearly see the very warm temperatures out west here. We also very, very clearly see the colder temperatures intruding on southern Canada, south central and southeastern Canada, as well as the upper Midwest, northern plains, Great Lakes, parts of the Mid-Atlantic, and even into New England and the rest of the Northeast there. This is going to get obviously more extreme than this as we reach towards Monday here. Monday afternoon, we see far below average temperatures extending throughout a majority of the plains, especially the northern plains, majority of the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast here, all these areas dealing with cool temperatures compared to normal, very cool temperatures compared to normal. Here is Tuesday, which could be the coldest day of this cool down compared to normal. We see those bright greens really prevailing for many folks around the nation. We see really from the plains eastward, the majority of areas are dealing with this cool down by this point. But if you're underneath these squigglies, I mean, you're pretty much dealing with far below average temperatures for Tuesday on the 15th. Wednesday the 7th, or the 16th, better yet, is also quite cool. It has reached further southward and further eastward, but we see the southern plains into the deep south, southeast, Ohio Valley, up the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast here. All of these areas dealing with far below average temperatures still. And Thursday, we see it holding on for the southeast, especially there, still around. But look out west, we have a cool down starting there. So this should slowly but surely move this warm up towards the east, would be the look if we get this negative PNA look, which means cold out west. Let's take a look at Friday here, and it's a lot of the same, still cool in the southeast corridor, but warming. And Saturday doesn't look like it's fully coming to an end either, so very interesting look. It's a little messy towards the end, but multi-day major Arctic blast on the way for the central and eastern states here in just a few days. Let's just dive into Hurricane Milton, major Hurricane Milton, and here's the max wind gusts according to the European model, and we're sitting at least around 100 miles per hour along that coast to the north and south of the Tampa Bay, as well as in it. I think it will obviously be larger than this, as it's at least going to be a category 3 at landfall, so that should put us closer to like 115, 120, and that's probably sustained wind, so gusts could get even higher. I think it's a little under what we're really expecting. We do see at least 50 miles per hour for the majority of this portion of Florida. As we take a look at the total precipitation, this is the European model's interpretation of it. First things first, anywhere in the blues is about half an inch to an inch, so Miami, nothing too crazy. The yellows are 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds are 2 to 5 inches, which we do see for a majority of the central and northern areas of Florida, excluding the Panhandle, of course. The browns, 5 to 10, which there is a swath of that from north of the Tampa Bay all the way to that northeast coast of Florida. We even see some blues popping up there to the north of the Tampa Bay, and that is 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. This is a pretty big click above what we were originally anticipating. As we take a look at the GFS model, it's very similar, a little further south with these estimates, but we had that magenta shade just to the north of the Tampa Bay area. And also for some of the coastal areas along the east coast of Florida, those magentas, 15 to 20 inches of precipitation. So again, quite a bit larger amounts than what we were originally discussing. Here's the intensity guidance, and it's hard to say where we're really starting out. I would say we're really somewhere like this, and it is going to be a pretty clean decline over the next, 24 hours. The storm hitting somewhere between this point, so we're looking at probably an upper end category 3, maybe lower end category 4 at landfall. That's my current estimate. Obviously, nothing really beyond that matters too much. Here is the official tropics as we're looking at it, and we do see clouds and storms all around the southeast due to Milton. We do have an area of 30% chance of development out there off the southeast coast. It's kind of a stretch. It's closer to Bermuda, actually. 30% chance both over the next 2 days and over the next 7 days, by the way. We still have Hurricane Leslie, and then we do have an area moving off of Africa where there's a 10% chance of development over the next 2 days and 7 days. So likely that one won't develop, but there is a slim chance. Let's take a look at the cone forecast for Hurricane Milton. We do see it's a major hurricane slamming into the west coast of Florida, as we mentioned, crossing over the state as a hurricane and even remaining a hurricane all the way through 8 p.m. tomorrow when it's going to be to the north of the Bahamas. So kind of retaining that hurricane status for a while. Maximum sustained winds right now, we're at about 130 miles per hour. So quite a bit above the minimum threshold for category 3. And likely that's not going to go down too much before landfall, of course. It is moving quite quickly at this point, 16 miles per hour to the northeast. Very, very intense system, unfortunately, obviously. And this could be one of the more devastating hurricanes in recent memory whatsoever. The total rainfall from the National Weather Service reflects what we saw from those models. We do see in the light greens 1 to 2 inches, dark greens are 2 to 4, yellows are 4 to 6. Light orange is 6 to 8, dark orange is 8 to 12. Your bright cherry reds is going to be 12 to 16 inches, which is basically the maximum we see over land. So to the north of the Tampa Bay, kind of the north side of Tampa Bay, and also areas to the north of Orlando. I think that might be near Daytona. It might be a little south of Daytona. But regardless, 12 to 16 inches somewhere there along that east coast of Florida as well. So quite large amounts, so a pretty large swath of 8 to 12 inches and then even 12 inches plus for some spots. That's going to be a whole lot of rainfall to take on for these areas. Here is the most up-to-date peak storm surge forecast. And we see that areas in the blue are up to 3 feet. We see a lot of that for the Keys. Some of coastal Georgia and South Carolina also getting a bit of storm surge there, the Big Bend. We also see the yellows in the up to 6 feet zone. So along the east coast there, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. Near the Everglades, 3 to 5. The oranges there, which we only really see for areas kind of to the south. I would say just north of the Everglades, really. And that's going to be 5 to 8 feet. Your reds are 8 to 12, which goes both for the Charlotte Harbor and Tampa Bay, two very populated areas. And then the pocket in between really appears to be potentially the worst, slightly, but it is in that purple where we're expecting 9 to 13 feet of storm surge. And I really feel like they've lowered the amount slightly. I think it could go higher. Keep that in mind. Anywhere between Charlotte Harbor and Tampa Bay could be pushing towards 15 or even more feet of storm surge in an absolute maximum. So obviously this is devastating estimates here, and this is absolutely going to cause just unbelievable damage to both the Tampa Bay and the Charlotte Harbor. Just buckle up. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a monster. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everybody stays safe through this hurricane. It's obviously hitting this evening. I will not be uploading again today, so this is my final update for the very major hurricane Milton. Again, hope everybody stays safe. Be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.